So, Liz Lister, it's nice to have you here. Can you just tell us where you're from and which tours you lead?
Okay, I'm born and bred in Scotland, and I live and guide there. And this is my second career, and I'm passionate about introducing people to my home country.
Now, what was your first career?
My first career was in education. I was involved in recruiting students from across the world to come and study in Scotland. So, an ambassador for Scotland, I wanted to learn more.
Thing. That's interesting. Now, Liz, Rick Steves' Best of Scotland tour seemed to go to so many interesting places. Can you tell us a few of your favorites?
Well, every day I have a joke with the people on my coach that every day is my favourite day. But if I have to narrow it down, my favourite day would be the day when we travel across from Oban across to Iona. We take a ferry and we're travelling across in time. So when we travel across the Isle of Eagles, which is Mull, we're looking to spot sea eagles, golden eagles, otters. Beautiful bus journey across for about an hour, and then we take a 10-minute journey back in time to the tranquil, serene island of Iona. And that was where Christianity came to Scotland with St Columba. And there's a variety of things that people can do. Visit the abbey, visit the oldest medieval nunnery. The ruins are so tranquil. Take a walk through. Only 175 residents. And as you walk up the main village, you're walking back in time, and you're following the route of the pilgrims through crosses, the Celtic crosses, visiting the abbey or visiting the beautiful white shell sands of Iona.
So tour members have a bit of free time to explore those areas?
Absolutely. We give them the options in advance. We gather again on the pier to get the ferry back, and in those few minutes we're looking for Columba's tears, little stones which are flecked with green marble as a little souvenir of their trip to Iona.
Oh, how fabulous. That sounds wonderful. Now, you've been a guide for a number of years, but we've heard that last summer was the first time you ever led a full-time Scotland tour for Rick Steves. And it happened to be that Rick Steves himself was one of your first tour members. Now, was that just a little bit intimidating for you? And what was it like to travel with Rick?
It was a baptism of fire, but I think ignorance is bliss. I didn't really know Rick Steves because in Europe he's not the phenomenon that he is in the US. And so it was my first tour. It was just like, bring it on. He was wonderful to have. The tour members were so supportive, that they were so much on my side, that they were lovely. And I survived it. And as I've been saying to people, in a few weeks' time, I'm hoping that I'll come off the medication.
Now, were your tour members surprised to see him?
Yes, some of them are so into Rick that they already knew that the tour member called Rick Romstead, they knew that was a family name, so they'd already clocked it and were ahead of the game. But for others, it was a complete surprise. So the manager of the hotel described how one lady was sitting working on the computer in the foyer. When she saw him out of the corner of her eye walk past, did a double take, walked up the stairs, walked back down again. Are you Rick Steves? So it took some by surprise.
Oh, how interesting. Well, Roy Nichols, welcome. Thank you for being here. Now, can you tell us a bit about yourself and the tours you lead for Rick?
Well, I live in a little village called Chillingstone in the county of Dorset in southern England, about 120 miles southwest of London. I trained as an archaeologist many years ago. And I do both the England-Wales tour now, the Scotland tour, the London tour. I've also ventured out into Europe the last 2 or 3 years as well.
How exciting. Now, you just said you have this passion for archaeology, this history, working in archaeology. Can you tell us about a place on Rick's Best of England tour where connecting the tour members and archaeology is particularly fun?
Well, it's always been a great delight doing this particular job, because being an archaeologist, we visit many archaeological sites, not just in Europe, but also particularly in Britain. One can think of Avebury and Hadrian's Wall, but probably of all of the sites, the one that is certainly my most favourite is the Clavercans. Now, this is a site to the east of Inverness in Scotland. There are a series of what we call passage graves, Neolithic monuments that are about 2,500 to 3,000 years ago, that were really a place to inter the dead, were also sites of ritual. And what's fascinating about it is that it's a very intimate site. You can walk amongst these passage graves. I can connect with the tour members and tell them about the history, but also the way that our ancestors lived. the way they expressed themselves and the way they lived and died. It was such an integral part of their lives, and it's a wonderful sight to do that.
Well, I've heard that you are now you've been continuously guiding for Rick Steves longer than any other active tour guide, which is crazy. And how many years has that been?
26 years.
I'm sorry to out you that way, but and
Started when he was 10.
yeah.
Oh, bless you, Liz. Bless you.
Well, as Rick's tour program has grown, and from your perspective, how has it changed, or how has it stayed the same?
In the early days, I was both the driver and the guide. We used minibuses, and we would have 10 or 12 people. So now we've moved on to coaches, of course, that has changed a great deal. But in essence, I don't think it has changed, because although faces might have changed, people we deal with, some of the B&Bs that we go to, different people or different B&Bs, but the sites are the same. The romance, the history, the people, all of those things still stay the same. And it's that joy that I still get. A lot of friends have always said to me, do you not get bored by going to these same places? But if I go to the Claverkens or Hadrian's Wall or Bath or London 5 or 6 times a year, it's not onerous at all. It's a constant delight.
I bet it's fun to see new tour members be delighted over and over and over again.
And that is it, is knowing that every time I have a tour, it'll be somebody new that have never seen these sites, and you see the delight and the interest that they have in these places.
Wow, interesting. Well, I guess this is a question for both of you, but can you have a little discussion between the two of you of the variety of places you take people on your tours, and maybe some favorites or places that surprise people?
I was just going to comment on that from what Roy was saying, that for every tour member, they're looking for something different. So for some that are passionate about collies, it might be the visit to the sheepdogs. For other with archaeology, it might be the visit to Clavercairns. It's different for everyone. But what is common to all is that what they take away as memories are the experiences rather than the sights. It's soaking up a taste of Scotland or hearing bagpipes being played next to a beautiful Scottish loch.
And all of the tours have wonderful variety. We stay in large cities, Bath, London. We go to country areas like the Cotswolds and the Lake District. We see historic sites. We see contemporary museums. So there's so much variety that goes with it. And it is one of those great delights that there is so much variety, and one of the reasons why I keep doing it.
Interesting. Now, but if you had to pick a particular town or a particular museum that you haven't already discussed, that people are like, I didn't know that was going to be so great.
For me, the British Museum is still one of the great highlights. It's one of the great museums of the world. There's so much to see. It would take you something like 6 weeks just to study all of the rooms. But also I love going to the Lake District. It's one of the great highlights. And it is that variety of countryside and town that really does make it interesting.
And one thing that I would point out, in Scotland, the public museums are free of charge. So you can pop into a museum and just, if the weather changes, we say in Scotland, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. So for that 5 minutes, you could pop into a museum and see something and then pop out again. But some of our other museums, like Britannia, are a real experience. Those that are private, there's an entry fee for that, but well worth a visit to a well-guided tour of Britannia.
Interesting.
And that's true of all the great national museums throughout Britain, be it in London or Bath or York. Museums that are national museums are all free to the public.
So even
they're seen as a resource for everyone.
Well, so London tends to sound like such an expensive city, and in so many ways it is, but if your sightseeing is free, or virtually can be free.
The British Library, the National Gallery, the National Portrait Gallery, the British Museum, the Tate, all of these are free museums, and it's the same in Edinburgh, as Liz was saying.
As you come as a tourist, it's about seeing, but it's about total immersion. It's not just the sights, it's about the sounds, the smells, the tastes that makes up the full package.
Sure. Well, so, there's been this long time reputation of Scotland and England not having the best food. But I've also heard that has changed drastically over the number of years. And can you give us some particular experiences where you have great meals on these tours?
Well, in Scotland, when we go to Edinburgh, there's also some wonderful museums there. But I think this reputation that Britain gained for bad food really was a post-war issue. And throughout the 60s and 70s, it was still true. But there's this great revival in British food in the last 20 or 30 years. And whether you go to a little country inn in the Cotswolds, whether you go to a city restaurant in Edinburgh, a restaurant in London, a pub in York, again, I think you'll be surprised by the variety and the quality of the food that you'll have.
And food and drink is one of our major industries in Scotland. It's one of our 5 major industries. So from Scottish salmon, Scottish seafood, if you travel to mull mussels, to the beef, Aberdeen Angus beef is world renowned. So we have the quality of ingredients, and we now have the chefs to make the most of the quality of those ingredients. So Edinburgh, for example, has the highest concentration of Michelin-starred chefs outside London.
Really?
So, this reputation for oats, and more oats is really one of the past.
Well, and not to mention the Scotch and the great whiskey. I mean, there's obviously lots to drink when you're in that part of the world.
Unfortunately, we do have a reputation for poor diet as well. We deep fry everything.
Oh.
So we also dip our haggis in batter and fry them. We're even known to deep fry Mars bars. So if you're into those kind of delicacies, and then you have the Iron Brew to thin out your blood and lower the cholesterol.
Iron Brew? What's that?
Iron Brew is a drink that outsells Coca-Cola in Scotland.
Really?
So it's said to be made from girders, iron bars.
And it's a soda or it's
a fruit-flavoured soda. It's very
sakes.
orange. I'm sure that if you put sheep's wool into it, it would come out dyed orange.
That's hilarious. Now, how much time of your year do you spend on the road? People are always curious about the life of a tour guide.
Well, I have quite a busy season, so I'll start in late April or early May and go through till October and November, with some breaks, obviously, during the summer months. And the autumn, winter then is for resting and study and stuff like that. But yes, really from April through till November.
Wow, well, and are you as busy?
I only do extended tours with Rick Steve, so I do one a month, and then I do local guiding for the rest of the season.
How fascinating. So if there's anything that you would want to tell our potential tour members, why they should pick coming to England or Scotland over Italy or France if they were planning to go to Europe, what would you tell them?
I think Britain has a familiarity about it. For a lot of North Americans, because of the knowledge of Britain through books and films, it's almost like coming home. And of course, if you've got Scottish ancestry or English ancestry, it is coming home in every sense of the word. And I think it's that familiarity, but at the same time, we are foreign countries, and there is so much variety in this small little island of ours, and I think that's the secret. So much concentrated in a very, very small area.
I would just echo that. I mean, Scotland is one of the most diverse geologies, and from that, diverse landscapes, also skyscape, because in Scotland, anyone who comes to visit Scotland can't help but be impacted upon by the beautiful skies.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a magical place. I have not been there yet. It's going to be high on my bucket list. So thanks so much for being here with us.
Look forward to welcoming you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.